Leah Mazar, Managing Director out of our Atlanta market.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Clogston. I'm an Associate Director and Leadership Advisor here in the Florida market. Really just happy to have had the experience to have presented at the FEI conference here in Orlando today.
I would say leadership advisory, what it means to me is being more intentional and thoughtful about my own leadership and what I can do to improve my own leadership in order to exponentially improve those around me. I'd say I've had several aha moments, but the biggest aha moment is with my family. I do a lot of these reflection tools with my family. I've sat down with my husband. I actually gave it as an example today. I sat down and did the ICSR exercise with my husband. And one thing from a compelling aspect was tennis. It is a huge benefit to him and he loves it. And so I've taken lessons and now it's something we do together. It's also helped at my clients. I've noticed the significant ahas in building and strengthening personal and professional relationships with my clients as a result of doing leadership advisory with them.
I think leadership advisory is like a mindfulness practice for me. I think it's how I can carve out the time for myself, but also help others do the same. And that's something I've always enjoyed doing, even since I was in high school and college. But I feel like now this is almost the professional aspect of it too, is really understanding who I am, who is my most genuine self, and how can I bring that out in others as well. And similar to what Leah said, I think this was actually the first year I had done Irresistibly Compelling and Seriously Relevant with my partner. And we sat down at the beginning of the year and were able to identify things that we could do to build our relationship and strengthen our relationship even more. And so I think just whether it's being on clients as a professional resource or now getting to deal with our clients day in and day out, doing these things specifically, I just think that's how we can add the most value, and it's been really fulfilling. Yeah, I think the writing aspect is super important. I love how we provide the worksheets when we get together as a firm, and hopefully of course people have printed them out on their own and done them in advance, but regardless, even if they haven't, it's just nice to have the physical paper. And for me, I even have a filing cabinet now that I keep them in and I house them in, and it's nice to be able to look back. And I think the value really comes in reflecting back even last quarter, this quarter, last year, and understanding how things change and progress as time goes on, really. So I think that's not only the value in reflecting on it in the moment, but also as time passes, and then what are you looking for in the future as well, and kind of recording that.
The only thing I would add, I totally agree with everything Kayla said, but the only thing I would add is it just makes it real and it gets away the distractions. So when you're writing it down and a client is, they're purely focused on that. If I ask you a question and I'm not writing it down, I can be giving you an answer that is half of what it should be. Whereas you write it down, you make it real. You're avoiding the distractions. You're avoiding the other thoughts. Your thought is just on that. So I find it everything Kayla said, and then just that small additive piece. My biggest insight is we are so accustomed to this, and it is just something we do, who we are, how we be, as Rob would say. And I think we a little bit take that for granted. We don't recognize that it's our culture and who we are, and that we are so blessed to have this as a part of our culture. We had that woman come up at the end and say, hey, we're just so small that we haven't invested in tools and the resources to be able to do this. And it's something that would exponentially and change my team. Just the gratefulness of being able to do that.
I was drawing some parallels between the opening remarks this morning and then what we were going to say, and I'm sure that throughout your time here, even if you're in some of the more technical sessions or not, that hopefully there are some similarities and things that you're hearing multiple times, just in different ways, different perspectives. And I think to Leah's point, I mean, this is so not normal for most people. And so just being able to be the difference that they experience in their day, or even when we're meeting with our clients, we hope to be the meeting in their day that is just different than their typical day-to-day work, right? And so it was great to hear people appreciating what we had to say and seeing them writing things down. And we gave enough time too, which was nice for people to write. I think, just giving 30 seconds and moving on, you don't really do it justice. So even though we only have 50 minutes here together today in this session, just, giving that spaciousness a little bit for them to think. And hopefully when they walk out, it's something that they look at in the future and it's not just words they wrote down on a page on a Monday, morning. So hopefully that can carry on with them.
Power questions on your table. If you want to grab a card, just a kind of a sample of what we're going to be doing a little bit today, asking you thought-provoking questions and having you really take the time to reflect on those questions and answer them. So it's just a kind of a sample of who we are as a firm, and we thought it was representative of what we'll be covering today. So we have a pile on your desk in the spirit of not putting them all around in time constraints. So if you grab them, maybe take a look and take a minute with the partner next to you, introduce yourself, and maybe talk through answers to the questions. Just 1 minute as an icebreaker. Okay. Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. I hope everyone's enjoying their stay in beautiful, sunny Florida. I know we've really enjoyed the resort, and Kayla and I are super excited to be talking to you a little bit more about Exponential Leadership today, which is a firm and core higher purpose of who we are as a firm. Before I get into things, we're going to briefly introduce ourselves so you guys can kind of understand our background and who we are and what we do at the Siegfried Group, our firm. Go for it, Kayla.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Clogston. I'm an Associate Director and Leadership Advisor here in our Florida market. So I do live here in the Sunshine State, just over in St. Petersburg near Tampa. Been at the firm for about 6 years now, started my career at EY in Boston. Born and raised in Massachusetts, so found myself coming down to Florida for a Siegfried project actually. Started at the firm as a professional resource, so serving on with our clients in a technical capacity, and then decided to stay. Lived in Melbourne for a couple of years over on the Atlantic coast, and then just about 2 years ago moved over to St. Pete just around the time when I switched my role at the firm. So now I'm really focused on building relationships and expanding our business here in the Florida market.
Yeah. And I'm Leah Mazar. I'm a managing director out of our Atlanta market. I've been with the Siegfried Group for a little over 11 years. Much like actually 100% of our professionals, I also started my career in public accounting. And I since then came over to the Siegfried Group as a professional resource, which most of you in this room would consider like a consultant. Was there for a little over 2 years before joining our leadership team. Wore several hats in our leadership team, but latest being leading our Atlanta practice. So we're excited to be here with you today. And just kind of an overview of what we're going to be discussing, and it's going to be applicable to everyone in this room, no matter what your role is. I know we have a lot of CFOs in the room, but we also have a lot of different roles in the room as well. So our goal today is to talk to you about how we help our two sides, how we help our professionals transform themselves into better leaders to exponentially improve their life, so our internal talent, but also how we help you, our clients, transform themselves into better leaders in order to exponentially improve their leaderships in their lives as well. So that's our goal and intention. A lot of it's going to be through active exercises. So all of you in front of you have small packets with different tools that we use with our clients as well as with our professional resources. And hopefully you guys find it insightful. The power questions that were at your table were just a taste of, our intentions to ask you thought-provoking questions that you normally wouldn't answer. So we have them at our booth actually. They're great relationship conversation starters, great client conversation starters, great internal talent conversation starters as well. So a little bit about us, just by show of hands, out of curiosity. Who has heard of the Siegfried Group before? Okay, so quite a few. That's awesome. Just a brief overview for you. I'll spend less than a couple of minutes doing this, but we are a national firm in 18 different markets across the country that started in 1988. We do accounting and finance third-party professional services. So think walking into a dynamic organization, somebody that's experiencing change, somebody that is going through a transaction, somebody that needs extra arms and legs for execution around your accounting and finance project work. That is where we step in and play. 100% of our professionals have either a Big Four or a Tier 2 public accounting background, so they understand the change, dynamic, client-facing, client service, deadlines, sometimes longer hours, and they're really excited to step in and work through these change. We don't focus on experience and expertise, so if you call us and said, hey, I need a NetSuite specialist to do an ERP implementation, we focus more so on intangibles. I always ask, I'm not going to do this because it's a big room full of people, but I always ask the CFO of my client or the CAO of my client, what makes your best employee the best? And almost 0% of the time do I hear, oh, it's their technical expertise in 606, in 842, in our ERP implementation. Almost always do I hear the stuff we list on our people. They are strong. They are ambitious. They are confident. They have strong mental agility. They're flexible. They're humble. It's not a word we use often when talking about our professionals, but they're not afraid to ask the right questions. So that's what we deploy to our clients at different places. So that's who we are. For clients to really value or get our full value proposition, they'll have to also experience our leadership advisory, but I'm going to save that because we're going to get into that. That's everything. Okay, and then just quickly, we value fun, we value being fair, and we value creating and sharing our value.
Great. I'll take it for the leadership advisory piece. And Leah, I may actually flip back through a couple of these slides, so I'll take this from you. But leadership advisory really it's who we are. It is a huge part of our culture, and it's how we really deliver on our higher purpose. And Leah actually touched on that a little bit, but I'll flip back to that just so we can see it in front of us in a moment. But really, what is it? It's the process in which we help our clients and our professionals carve out the time to be thoughtful and reflective about what's truly most important to them personally and professionally, right? And so oftentimes the act of carving out this time is the most difficult part, right? And so Leah and I would like to ask you to just take a step back from your daily life right now, right in this very room, and dedicate the rest of this time to your leadership and the impact that can have on your teams, right? And so I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but when we think about this is a quadrant 2 activity. This is important, but not urgent. And so when you think about your day-to-day lives, we're operating sometimes in quadrant 1, important and urgent. These things need my attention right now, and they're pulling me away sometimes from the things that are super important, but not urgent, right? Because they get pushed by the wayside. So just take a step back and think of this time as an investment in you. And so let's see if I can flip back here just to show you our higher purpose, right? Leah has said it, but I think just to enunciate a little bit more, right? We help people, interested people, hopefully like yourselves, who decided to come here today to a presentation on exponential leadership, transform themselves. Because we want to help you, but really the work needs to be done by each and every single one of you, right? So you're doing the hard work. Transforming yourself into a better individual leader, right? To exponentially improve your life and the lives of those around you who you care most about. So flipping back here, thanks for bearing with me. So we talk a lot about synergy at Siegfried, right? And Leah touched on it. Really, the way in which our clients experience the most value from us is by experiencing this synergistic offering of leadership advisory and talent delivery together, right? Because leadership advisory is the piece in which they're carving out the time to clarify what their top priorities are, right? So that they can be as prioritized and organized as possible in how they go about executing those things. And so if appropriate, our high caliber CPAs, our professional resources, right, can come in and help them operate as the arms and the legs to successfully execute on those top priorities, right? And so we have about 1,200 client serving professionals across the country in our 18 markets, and we hire the best of the best out of public accounting. And so I think we do a pretty good job at retaining our employees as well. We really invest a lot of time, money, and resources to be able to provide the best possible talent to our clients, right? And so in order to do that, we need to invest in their individual leadership. And I'm gonna skip ahead just a couple slides here as well. And so Leah alluded to this, but when you think of your top performers, when you think of what does it take to be a good leader, right? And I'm giving you a little bit of a cheat sheet here, but I do want you to take a moment and write down 3 character ethic traits that you think of when you think of your top performers or somebody who's a really good leader, individual leader in their life, right? So just take a moment, write down 3 things. Try not to copy anything up here. Maybe think of something that comes to mind naturally. And then I also want you to write down 3 things that you think of in yourself. And maybe it's something that you want to develop more of in yourself, or maybe you find that these are just my inherent strengths that you want to play into a little bit. So I'm just going to give you a minute to do that. So our model is really based on this relentless pursuit of excellence and really striving to be the best possible versions of ourselves that we can be. And in doing that, you help others do the same. And so in order to kind of bring character ethic and this whole concept sort of to life, I'll flip back and I'm excited to introduce the life leadership curve. So this is a curve that is truly made 100% by our CEO, Rob Siegfried. He'll bring this up actually in every single time we're together. It's not almost, it's every single time we're together. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is something that is so ingrained in everything that we do. Any firm-wide call that we have, any team meeting that we have, it really all comes back to this life leadership curve. And so before I dive into presenting it and explaining it to you, I'd like to just call your attention to these freedoms on the right-hand side here. And so again, maybe take a moment and write down and maybe rank these freedoms. Maybe jot down the top 3 or the top 5, or in your on your papers here, you can actually see them listed. Maybe you can even just write a number next to each and every single one. And so think about these freedoms. What is truly most important to you right now in your life? And maybe that calls out something that this one's really important to me, but I'm not dedicating quite enough time. Maybe there's some realizations that you'll see here, but I'll just give you a moment here to rank those. And so as you're doing that, Leah and I were super excited to be able to give you this little taste of what our full-time employees of the firm get to experience within the walls of Siegfried every day. And so this is really what brings our higher purpose to life, like I said. So kind of the premise is our higher purpose is ultimately that we're trying to exponentially improve lives here, right? And so in order to do that, you need to become a better individual leader. And in order to become a better leader, you need to invest in your character ethic, right? And when you look at all of those words on the screen up there, those are hard things to do, right? To be constantly disciplined, honest, caring, loving, empathetic, hardworking, right? Any of these other words that maybe come to your mind when you describe your leadership, or those why you love your teammates so much, right? And so where does the motivation come from, right? Every day we're working hard, we're trying to be the best versions of ourselves, But really, where does that come from, right? It comes from dreams. Your passionate, energized, enthusiastic, ambitious dreams, right? And so ask yourself, how often am I dreaming? What dreams do I have? What dreams have I accomplished maybe so far in my life? And maybe write down one more thing. What's one dream that you've accomplished that you're most proud of so far? Maybe it could be in the last year, it could be in your entire life, but really take a moment right now and put some thought into what makes you so proud. Does it have to do with your family? Does it have to do with how you came to this room today, in your career, your health? And then maybe think about a dream that you currently have that you're hoping to accomplish. And if you don't really know, that's okay. I think that's the purpose of this, right? Is to say to yourself, okay, well, maybe I deserve to dedicate a little bit more time into doing these things, right? And so this is really what the purpose of this is. Why are we doing this? It's because we want to experience this exponential growth and success, right? Because as you develop your leadership, you will experience exponential growth and success that's defined by you, right? That success is defined by your dreams, how you're achieving those, the freedom that those dreams create for you in your life, right? So really, how do we do this? We care. Our firm just really cares about our clients. We care about our professionals. And so we're able to create this container, right? This safe space for them to think about these things, to speak with their mentors or people that they care most, right, at home as well as at the firm about what's truly most important to them. And that takes a lot of vulnerability, right? And these character ethic traits we talk about a lot. I think the three that Rob, our CEO, talks about most is humility, ambition, and courage, right? The humility to recognize that you have so much room to grow, right? It's almost the more we learn, the less we know, right? And so having the courage to do things afraid and the ambition to keep up that motivation, right? So, you know, we talk a lot about beliefs, behaviors, and results as well. And so it really takes a growth mindset to lean into these topics, right? I'm sure most of you are familiar with growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so I believe that everyone in this room truly can develop as a leader, right? We are trying to build this next generation of leaders, and character ethic and all of these things that we've been talking about, it's really a long-term play, you know? And so I don't know if anyone's read the book Atomic Habits, but it's really, we've been talking about this big transformational growth and change and constantly striving to be our best, right? But I want to make sure that we understand it's not this for transformational change to happen, it does not require transformational actions, right? It's really the small incremental changes that you can be applying day in and day out, right? To end up putting you to where you want to be. Right, and in the book Atomic Habits, and Rob says this a lot too, if there's a plane taking off from LA on its way to New York, right, and if the plane just changes course about 3 degrees at the onset, it ends up in Washington, D.C., right? So hundreds of miles away, nowhere near the intended destination, right? And you gotta think about that in terms of your life as well, right? So everything you do, every habit you implement is really casting a vote for that person that you ultimately wanna become. And so just scooching forward here, you know, we have some pages in front of you. And so to introduce this tool, it's actually something I've done with my group of professionals, my team internally. We actually all have a small group of professionals that we work with, coach and mentor, specifically related to certain things like developing their relationships, helping them really on their path to mastery at the firm. And so this freedom focus, you know, we've already kind of gone over some of these things. We've thought about your dreams. We've thought about character ethic and what's super important in making you and your team the best version that they can be of themselves, right? And then we've also kind of considered the freedoms here. So I'd love to take a few minutes here and pick one of those freedoms. Maybe it's a freedom that you have. Maybe it's a freedom that you want more of in your life, right? And so take a moment and write down that freedom. You can see that this is broken out by personal, professional, and another option, but just pick one, anything that resonates with you. And then the purpose of this is understanding what needs to happen by the end of this year in order for you to feel overwhelmingly pleased with your progress associated with that particular freedom, right? And why? And so I think a lot of times when we do these exercises, it might be a little bit vague at first. It might be you're just starting to try to think of these things, right? And what success looks like to you you might need to have a little bit more parameters around it eventually, but that's okay if it's vague right now. You can at least put down like generally what needs to be true at the end of this year for you to feel so happy with your progress. So let's take a few minutes here. It's okay if the room is silent. This is your calm reflection time. And write some things down. When you're thinking about what has to be true, think about the what. You've got the why up there. What about the when? And the who? Who's involved? How? All of these things will come, but even just getting a few ideas down will be great. I'm pretty much done after this. Okay, so we at least just wanted to introduce one of these tools. We have a bunch of these tools in our presentation, but hopefully you found this helpful and thought-provoking, and I hope that when you leave this room that these character ethic traits and these dreams of yours and how you plan to accomplish achieving more freedom in your life, I hope that comes with you and that it doesn't just stay in this room, and that maybe it's, quarterly or monthly or weekly or whatever it is, that you start to implement some of these reflection tools. I think that plays into the beliefs, behaviors, results, right? Because if you really lean in, if you're really open, and then you start actually committing the time to be doing these things, then the results will really show for it. And I think you'll be able to see how you can really improve your life. So thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Leah.
Yeah. And hopefully, honestly, you take these back and you can share them with the professionals on your team. I think they will, and we'll get to this, but it will allow you to become better aligned with your team. When you understand what's most important to them professionally and personally, it's going to allow you to develop that relationship so you guys are more aligned in your strategic priorities. So really all of these tools are used both on our clients and our professional resources internally. Developing them as better leaders is incredibly important to us because obviously we're deploying them to you and we're giving you the promise of the world there of, hey, they're great leaders. They are going to exponentially help you in developing your own leadership. But a way that we conduct business is we've at the beginning I had talked about our talent delivery side of the house and what they're coming in to do to execute on your projects. But us as leaders of the organization, relationship managers of your companies, we are working with financial executives to help them, we call it QSAC, clarify, simplify, understand, agree, and commit to what is most important to them. I can confidently say, I don't really need to see a show of hands, but we work with a lot of dynamic organizations with really, really strong leaders. And there isn't a single leader yet that hasn't said, yes, I need to improve my leadership. That they don't have that fixed mindset or that complacent mindset of, yeah, I'm a really strong leader. I'm good. I'm a satisfied achiever. They are all like, yes, of course I need to improve my leadership. Of course, there's always room for improvement. So we are sitting down with CAOs, CFOs, corporate controllers, the next leaders of organizations, and helping them come up with what it is that's most important to them and why. And Kayla went over a lot of that. And we're going to continue with the exercises, because now let's turn the focus to you. And I know obviously you're thinking through your talent source, and they can benefit from this too. But write down your number one professional. I'm going to keep this professional. Write down your number one professional priority. Oops. And underneath that, write down, and you may have done this in some of Kayla's if you went the professional route, but write down why it is your most important priority. An interesting twist on this question. I don't know who your boss is in the room, whether the boss is the CEO, the CFO, the board, whoever your boss is. Would they say that is your top priority? Does your team know it's your top priority? If not, why? We often get, channel one priorities. Oh, my biggest priority is this ERP implementation. Well, is it your ERP implementation, or is it what your ERP implementation is going to do? It's going to increase EBITDA. It's going to lower costs. It's going to, what truly is the goal? Are you guys aligned in your metrics? Are you guys aligned as a team, both your team and your boss? Would the board of your organization, if you have a board of your organization, would they say that's your most important priority? And then back to the questions Kayla was asking, it goes back to, I think we all learned it probably in third grade, the who, what, where, when, why, how. Are you not only intimately aware and familiar with those questions, but is your team, which is wildly important. So we'll sit down with financial executives like yourself, and we will go through these, and we will poke holes, and we will question, and we will ask probing, thoughtful questions. And it's got to be a place of humility from everybody, from us and from them, because we do not have the answers. We are both, neither of us are CFOs. So if you're wondering, how do you know how to increase EBITDA, or how we don't. But we're going to ask you the questions to get you to be more thoughtful about it and make sure you guys have better organizational alignment. And that's actually this slide. So, organizational alignment comes from all over. You really need, in order to get, starting with the right side of the chart, you really need your employees to be inspired and motivated to do their best work. How do you do that? You are clear on your vision. You are clear on your mission. You are clear on your values. And you are communicating effectively with everyone in your organization to get this done. Once you have better organizational alignment, you will notice a tremendous increase in productivity and Even when you have to go to somebody, hey, why isn't this complete? Why don't we have, this will create all the difference in an organization. It's having that alignment both forward and back. Okay, so this is what we just went through. This is your priorities. It looks so simple, and it is so simple, but it takes time, and it takes time to visit this with your team. I challenge everyone in this room to go back to their team and say, what is my number one priority for you? Challenge your boss. Hey, I haven't asked this question before, but what is your number one priority for me? And why? Am I delivering on it? Where am I falling short? What am I doing? How can I become a better leader? Because by you becoming a better leader, you're also making your boss a better leader. You're also making those around you a better leader and your team a better leader. So this really focuses on priorities 1, 2, and 3. I challenge you to find what we would call a channel 3 priority, which is how are you helping your organization grow? How are you increasing the bottom line? At least one of the priorities we challenge every CFO. What is your priority that is going to help this organization grow? What is one thing on your whiteboard in back of you that if you could have time or your team had time to execute would increase meaningfully EBITDA? So I would challenge you, and you know why? What is stopping you from getting these whiteboard projects done? So hopefully you guys are all having internal aha moments of like, yes, I need to talk to my boss about this. I need to talk to my team about this. And I would love to make it interactive, but we have a lot of people, so I'm not going to call everyone out and say, hey, raise your hand, or but if you do have insights or thoughts on this, we are more than open to hearing about them. And Kayla kind of started here. We are firm believers, and I think everyone's firm believers, that you're going to be different in different areas on this mindset graphic in different areas of your life. So your personal life might be in one area, your professional life might be in one area, your relationships might be in one area. A common thing we hear from our CFOs are their relationship with their CEOs. What does that look like? How can you get it from where a lot may feel in the disappointed strivers, they're frustrated, they're feeling like they're stuck in these better, faster, cheaper things to do, but in reality, we need to focus on strategy. How do we get there? And how do we get there with our relationship with our boss? How do we get to the growth leader mindset? And we'll work with our financial executives on that. Hey, let's sit there for a minute. Let's talk about this. How can you get there? What is going wrong? Have you been open in your communication? So these are all areas that we believe you'll be, but if you strive for this and strive for the growth leader, feeling, relentlessly obsessed with this growth and improvement, we come up with actionable steps of what can get you there. And they're simple, again, questions that you can ask your team. Where do you sit, team? Where do you sit? And how can we get you there? What are the steps that you can take to get there? Okay. And the last tool we're going to introduce today, and there's a lot of words on this slide, but the irresistibly compelling and seriously relevant slide. And this is really focusing on your individual leadership as well as those around you. When you try to distinguish compelling versus relevant, compelling is really your heart, your soul, your emotional connection, whereas relevant is more the logical, your intellect. What can you do to be more compelling and relevant to yourself, to somebody personally? Think about everyone in this room. Think about somebody personally that they would like to grow their personal relationship with, whether it be your significant other, your kids, your parents, your boss. It can be whatever the personal relationship, somebody personally. Who is one person you want to strengthen your relationship with? What can you do to be more compelling to that person? What does that person find compelling? What's stopping you from doing it? What's one thing you could do to be more relevant to that person? What's stopping you from doing it? More importantly, and if everyone can take a minute to write this down, more importantly, what can you do to be more compelling to yourself? Maybe write that down. What can you do to be more compelling to yourself? What can you do to be more relevant to yourself? What don't you know that you really want to know? What don't you feel caught up on that you really want to feel caught up on? If you walk into a conversation, do you feel confident about your knowledge in this area? And the last question I'll ask is professionally. Who's one person that you want to be more compelling to professionally? We went over the personal side of the house, so it might look very different but feel the same. What is one person professionally that you want to be more compelling to? How are you going to be more relevant to that professional? We kind of went over this already. And here's the slide. This is another tool in front of you. Share it. Share it with your boss. Here's how I believe. Share it with, for a lot of people, I'm just stereotyping, but you said your spouse, your significant other, and personal. I don't know what you put, but whatever you put, share it with him or her. You know, I've made changes as a result of this exercises for my husband. And I think it's brought us closer. Now we're doing an activity together, tennis, which is his passion, and I'm taking lessons, and I actually absolutely love it. But you know, what can you do? What small change that, yes, it takes your time and effort, but that's it. It would make an exponential difference on your relationship, and then the professional side as well. So spend some time thinking about these. You know, I talk to them often, to my colleagues and my family. Okay, and this is a tool here where it's your ambition enhancer. Is you know, we're believers, and you've heard this several times, is the best is often the victim of the good. To maximize your potential and optimize your time and effort, we really think it's critical to evaluate what's important to you and next steps around it. It's just another tool in your toolkit. I think we're wrapping up now. I know we're a little bit early, but are you guys walking away with insights to take back to your team, to take back to your family, does anybody want to share in a bigger group? No takers.
I think it's all about being intentional, knowing your goal, and then being very intentional about it, and here's a tool to facilitate.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we do with our professionals and with ourselves, honestly, because if we're not growing as better leaders. So it's intention, it's time, it's back to the definition of the leadership advisory of finding calm, patient, all the words, the rhythmic, focused time to really, really be intentional about what's important to you and why. Sure.
I like the thought of, if you write down what your priority is, who's your boss, the people below you, other team members, the day of the week, that is your priority, so you know. I like that very much.
You would be shocked. We work with a lot of Fortune 1000 organizations. We're in over 300 right now. I know it said 250 on the slide, but it's updated to 300. And you'd be shocked. We sit down with those CFOs, and I'm like, hey, Does and I won't name names because some of them are perfect. But you often hear, well, shoot, no, they don't know. Or that's the number one question I have CFOs when I walk in the room. They're like, hey, Leah, what's my team saying? Are you doing these? We want you to do these exercises with my team. I'm like their intel. Like, oh, what's our team saying? Are they saying the same things we are? And often it's not aligned. So that organizational alignment is missing, and it's such a crucial part. And it comes back to really communication too. I saw somebody else raise their hand. Oh, I answered it. Okay, fantastic. Yes?
What kind of experience have you with clients after you've done all this good work and then you disappear and everyone gets busy with the million tasks everyone's got?
I'm so sorry. I did not hear you.
I'm sorry. Super interesting exercise. Really enjoyed this and a lot to take away, so thank you. But I'm curious from you and your experience with your client base, how it becomes, I don't want to say a habit, but after you've gone and you're on to the next client or the next project and everyone is back to doing a million tasks because all of us are so tactical, how do you, or what tools have you to encourage people to keep this kind of exercise?
Absolutely. So we are a relationship-based firm. We have 20 years, and we're partners with FEI for 20 years, but we have 20 years relationships with our clients. So even when we're not out there and we're moving on to the next project, with our most strategic buyers, we're doing this with, even when we don't have people deployed out there. But to your point, it's checking in, and the accountability is on them. So we'll check in. I check in quarterly with those where I don't have professionals deployed on how are things going. And I've created such strong relationships now that they're reaching out too. Like, hey, we've done this. Do you have we have 1,000 tools. So do you have a tool around an experience transformer, how it went? So we do hold them accountable, but it's on them. It's really, Kayla mentioned it, it's the interested parties that succeed the most at it. So it's very rhythmic in our organization, but it's on our clients to make it rhythmic in theirs. Yes?
Just curious, I'm sure you have many examples, but can you share an example where you felt the culture experienced transformational change, and then what that brought to the bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, again, without naming names, the clients that are most successful take these tools to their team and to their bosses. So back to my point of, hey, this is what I think my top priority is, CEO. This is what I think it is. This is my goal and intention for my team. Are we aligned? Do you feel comfortable with me coming back and having that conversation with my team? I do have several clients that have done that, and it has caused, a lot of people have their tools hanging on their cubicles. They have we do a lot of tests and stuff which spit out some examples of their personality types. They have their tools hanging up, and they remind each other constantly of like, hey, hang this up on the outside of your cubicle. Hey, hang this up on the outside of your office. So it's not only been successful in terms of organizational alignment, but also organizational alignment in terms of accepting too. Like, okay, this is the way they behave. This is the way we behave, back to the beliefs, behaviors, and results. And that's just who they are. So we've had a lot of success. In terms of increasing bottom line, back to organizational alignment. As soon as that CFO has told their CAO, hey, CAO, you're a super strong doer, but I need you to be more strategic in your role. It's not about making the close better, faster, cheaper. It's about, hey, we need to reduce SG&A as a percentage of revenue. What are you doing to do that? Once they start communicating, you will notice those metrics increasing in the way that they want to. But it's back to the communication side of the house. So we've seen it a lot. I would never take credit for that, but I had one of my CAOs call us the other day, and she said, these were the most strategic conversations, and I feel like I'm set up better now to be the next CFO because I'm looked at more strategically than I was before. So, yeah. Does that answer it? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, we really, really appreciate your time. We're really obviously passionate about this. So if you ever have questions or want thoughts or need a tool, we've got our business cards at our booth, and we've got the best swag around too. So stop by. Take care, everybody. All right.